Community has said that downtown redevelopment is important. It really is everybody's neighborhood. It's the one place in the city that we can all come and gather. We all know the buildings downtown. We all know downtown. We all spend time there. Even if you don't work or live down there, you probably come down for some reason or another. But from an economic standpoint, what really has pushed us forward in a big way is the economics and the fact that downtown is not keeping up in terms of the tax revenue. The property tax values in downtown have only increased about 2% over a 20-year period. In that same, and that's 2% over the entire 20 years, not 2% per year. And during that same time, the tax values in the city as a whole have more than doubled. So in essence, we're all paying to subsidize downtown because it hasn't kept up. One of the reasons it hasn't kept up, and this is a picture from the 1960s, what downtown looked like during that time, and it was mostly developed. You can see a lot of buildings, if you knew downtown at that time, that aren't here today. And this is a picture looking around the Civic Center area, and you see so much of the vacant land and parking lots because we've really spent a lot of years, decades really, in some ways tearing down downtown, and that's what's caused those property values to not go up along with the rest of the city. Buildings like Amarillo Hotel, which are no longer here, Municipal Auditorium, which is where the Civic Center is, the Ross Hotel, the Amarillo High School, which some of you may have actually attended, which burned down. Really unfortunate. The State Theater and so many other wonderful little buildings that I think if we had today would have been redeveloped. And if you look to Polk Street, for example, where has the development gone? It's gone into the existing buildings, those wonderful little buildings. This is an interesting picture of the Paramount sign coming down. And this is a picture of the Paramount sign back up. So I think we're beginning to turn that corner and beginning to recognize how important it is to bring the fabric of our downtown back. And we've begun to see that, bringing back the Santa Fe building and restoring that beautiful building, the Fisk building with the courtyard by Marriott going in, Otter County Courthouse. And I'm so excited to see employees back in that building. And then seeing streetscape projects, people investing in their downtown properties, 911 PRPC, 1015 South Polk, which is a new residence downtown, Happy State Bank, and the drive-through that's gone in, and the streetscape there, Polk Street United Methodist Church. These are projects that are all going on currently. But we've got a long way to go. If we just step back and did nothing, I think we continue to see, it wouldn't be enough. We continue to see the decline. I take pictures of just in the last week or so. These are not 10 or 20 years ago. These were taken last week in our downtown core. We still have, boarded up buildings, sidewalks that you can hardly walk down, trash on the sidewalks, graffiti. These are things we still need to stay on top of. We still need to work together to address. So I'm sure you've all seen this map. One of the things that we wanted to do was take from the strategic plan the goals that you all said you wanted to achieve. That was a year and a half, 2-year-long process that had a lot of public input. We looked at that strategic plan for downtown and looked at the goals that it stated. It stated we wanted a convention hotel, that we might look at a multi-purpose venue, that we needed residential, we needed retail. And so one of the things we began to look at is, if you remember the picture I showed that had quite a bit of vacant land in it, that's the Civic Center area. And there's a significant amount of not just vacant land, but vacant land that's owned by the city. So we saw a potential opportunity to look at some of those goals that you all wanted for downtown, and how can we bring those together, looking at the Convention Center Hotel, which is so important that it be close to the Civic Center, possibly a multi-purpose venue with the city-owned land there. And then that being able to capture residential and retail and office. So as we looked at what we could achieve, there's lots of examples we can look at that have achieved so much success in their downtowns, small downtowns, medium downtowns, large downtowns. They all have a couple of the same principles, and that is they started off with a synergy of projects that went in around the same time to create enough momentum to bring private capital, private investment. So that's one thing that we want to try and achieve. And they all had, no matter which downtown you look at, they all had a public-private partnership. It took both the public and the private to make it happen. You really won't find a successful downtown redevelopment that's only public or only private. So we began to look at bringing that private piece. We had the public, the city's desire to move downtown redevelopment forward. How do we bring the private? So we began to look for a master developer. A master developer that could... Was I done?
No, she was blocking her.
Oh, okay. That could decrease risk and increase efficiency by having that one master developer. Decrease costs. For example, having one architectural firm that works on all of the projects. Having enhanced quality and consistency in those projects. You have one master developer that's working on all the projects. It's to their benefit and to the community's benefit to have that consistent quality in the projects. So about a little over a year ago, in February, I met Joe Esch and David Wallace in Waco. I had seen or heard about what had happened in Waco in the last 6-7 years, and it was a remarkable transformation, and it was begun by Wallace Bajali. So I met them in Waco to look at their projects there. It became pretty clear that they had what we needed. They specialize really in secondary markets like ours. We're not Dallas or Houston, we're a smaller market, and in urban redevelopment, which is not the easiest kind of development to do. It takes that expertise, it takes capital, it takes private capital to bring to the table, something we needed. And we wanted a firm that had been through the public outreach and education. This is a public-private partnership, so it's got to involve the public and the community and what the community wants to achieve. And Wallace Bajali had all of those components. What particularly struck me in Waco was that the Wallace Bajali had expended about $80 million to develop on land that was owned by the city. The land that was owned by the city was bringing in zero ad valorem taxes because it was owned by the city and there was nothing on it. So for years, since the 50s, it wasn't bringing in anything. Wallace Bajali had a long-term lease for, I think it was $800 in total for the land, essentially free, but then built on that land. And the developments that they built have resulted in $2 million per year in ad valorem value to the city for those projects. The city still owns the land, but Wallace Bajali pays the taxes on the improvements. And this is the square. The square was there in Waco, was dilapidated, didn't have development around it that Wallace Bajali developed, as well as housing. And the other thing that was interesting was particularly the housing component, housing mixed use. After their $80 million investment, within about a 5-year time frame, another $300 million was spent by other private developers that followed that lead, that followed that synergy of projects to come in. And so within 7-8 years, Waco experienced $400 million in private investment. Another example was Sugar Land, and one of the things that was interesting to me in particular was that they had been on the other side of the fence. David Wallace was mayor of Sugar Land for 6 years. Joe Esch was our Buzz David. He ran the economic development for the city of Sugar Land. So they understood the other side of the table. So in February of this year, after working with Wallace Bajali for about a year, the city entered into a contract with Wallace Bajali. Wallace Bajali takes 100% of the risk until the projects are built. In this economy, for a secondary, unproven market, that's just unheard of. So the city isn't spending anything, nor DAI. The community is not spending anything in terms of the work that it's taking to explore these projects, the feasibility of the projects. Wallace Bajali is compensated 5.5% should the projects go forward. for their work in bringing those projects to fruition, from design, exploring, bringing financing to the table, all the way to construction, through construction. Very importantly, the Wallace Pajali understood funding sources. There are a lot of funding sources out there that we're looking at that do not affect ad valorem taxes. There's more funding sources than just a bond for the city. And then very importantly, what part of their contract is to analyze new build versus historic building, the Herring building in particular for convention hotel. We don't know the answer to that yet. That's something they're looking at. And this is a quote I love: when you come to the fork in the road, take it. And, you know, I think that's where we're at. We're at a fork in the road. I hope we take it forward. This has been a long, long process in trying to redevelop downtown. We're at a point in time where the time is right. So at this point,